Hello, everybody, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. And the title of this week's episode is called How to Recognize a Hit or a Flop. This is something that I've seen several startup founders struggle with, and also small business owners too. It's just one of those general concepts out there that, people need to know, and sometimes experience is the best teacher. But this has been a recurring theme of my observations, mentoring startup founders and small business owners, and doing consulting for particularly small business owners. And today I'm gonna cover two things. Number one, this question: how to recognize a hit or a flop, because this is an important concept. And number two, I was asked the question from someone: what do I need to know to start my own business or side hustle? Like, just from the top, give me like a sort of basic list of things that I need to know, need to be familiar with, that I should do if I want to get into this and possibly turn it into a long-term kind of thing that I do, rather than just sort of getting in and giving myself like a couple of weeks, and if it doesn't work, then I'm out kind of thing. Instead of that, if I'm interested in this for like a long-term endeavor, what should I do from the top? So those are the two things I'm going to talk about today. First of all, I suppose I better start off with the first question, the title of this week's episode. And you guys are going to have to forgive me because I'm a little under the weather today. And for the first time in a while, I took medication to, just over-the-counter kind of medication to knock down the symptoms so I can get on with some work. But it hasn't really kicked in. It hasn't really worked yet. So I got a bit of a blocked nose and stuff. So you'll have to be patient with me today. That's how it goes. Anyway, okay. So how to recognize a hit or a flop? What am I talking about this? What's the issue? Here's the issue, okay? I have noticed that several examples of people who start business endeavors on a very small scale to a mid-sized scale that make the mistake of, first of all, not recognizing when something is not working, okay? And what I mean by this is that they sort of put a plan into motion, and this looks like you're doing promotion for whatever it is that you're trying to sell, whether it's a product or a service or a combination thereof, and they're getting a certain response, okay? And in fact, the response they're getting is quite poor. So they might be getting a few customers, but it's really below expectations in terms of the response that they're getting. They're not getting a lot of interest. They're not getting a lot of bites. So one issue is that, and this is something that I've observed with a lot of people that are new to doing this, is that they don't realize that, like, okay, listen, what you really should be doing right now is going back and revisiting your plan, okay? Because what you're doing is not really effective. It's not effective enough for you to just sort of do this for a while, okay? What you really need to do, the best use of your time, money, and effort and energy, is to figure out a more effective plan. So either you change the way you're promoting something, or you change what you can in the short term, whether that's features of your product or service, or it's just the way you're promoting it, either the marketing message itself, or the channel over which you're going, or you're going to the wrong crowd. Okay, you're targeting the wrong individuals. So the problem is that people don't recognize that, like, what the response they're getting is. Like, this is not a good response. You should be getting a lot bigger of a response, a lot better of a response for what you're doing. The other extreme that I've seen, and this is a little bit less common, but I have seen it, is the opposite, where you make a plan, you create a product or service, you then market that, and you're getting a really good response. And in my opinion, the business owner, the startup founder, the side hustle owner, they have stumbled upon a hit. They have gotten a above average response, both in terms of interest and both in terms of bites, like people that pull a trigger and become paying customers. And not recognizing this, they then are too quick to change up what they do. They try something else experimental and potentially throw away a winning formula that they stumbled upon and don't capitalize on it. Okay, that's kind of a little bit less common, but I have seen that more than once. I've seen that several times, actually. But what is far more common, as I said, is the opposite, where people, because maybe they don't have a great backlog of experience doing business, they don't recognize a hit when they or a flop when they have one. We should always be thinking about, re-engineering our plan, trying to do what we do better. And that can take many forms. There's two sort of big areas. One is you improve the offering, the product or service. Okay. You change its features, you improve its quality and all that kind of stuff. This is a lot easier to do if you're offering, say, services. Okay. If you're providing services, maybe people don't respond very well to one service that you could offer, but they do respond a lot better to another. Okay. It's actually relatively quick and simple to change up what you do, okay, in the short term. A little bit more challenging when you're doing a product of some kind, okay, but it still is possible to do, okay. So you can make improvements in terms of that. But what is always usually pretty immediate is to change the marketing side of things, how you're selling it, what's the points of difference, what's the advantages of your product or service, how you're marketing it, like what the message is, and to whom are you marketing it, in terms of like your audience, your potential audience, okay? That is usually pretty easy to change up relatively quickly, okay? And, this sometimes does come with experience, but when you stumble across something that works, you want to keep it. We're always in search of that winning formula. So this is something I want to draw people's attention to, how to recognize it. Okay. Usually we have estimates. We have, when we make a plan, we have some idea of what success would look like what sales numbers would look like, what interest, what response of all types would constitute, a hit, right? And what I have seen is I have seen people that stumble across a hit initially, but then they appear to throw it away because, it's maybe not in line with their long-term plan of what they wanted to do or what their ambition was. So they're too quick to sort of throw it away and go to something experimental, right? It's very important to have some accurate real-world data on what a hit would look like and what a flop would look like. And this usually comes in terms of percentages. So what would be your hit rate or your... We talked about the marketing funnel a few episodes ago, a couple of times, and hopefully everybody remembers what the marketing funnel is. I'm going to see if I can pull up a picture of it just very, very quickly as a quick refresher for people that, I'm going to go to Bing. I prefer Bing for image searches. Not for too much else, but for image searches, they do have, at least they traditionally have had some advantages over Google. Here, just whatever, generic picture of the marketing funnel. So, okay, whatever. The names of these things change, okay? Different people draw this different ways, and there is no one universal way to do it. But the idea is that these are ratios, these are percentages, okay? So if you get a marketing message out to this many people, and then you have some way of gauging interest, maybe, for example, traffic to a website, that would be one way of gauging interest. Consideration. Usually the next one down is purchase, okay? So you have you can divide it up different ways, but you have purchase. So how many people have received your message versus perhaps how much interest you can measure, if that's possible, and then how much sales you do based on that promotion, okay? Now, the marketing funnel actually continues down. A lot of people regard it as continuing down. Beyond people that purchase your product once, you can get things like, for example, fans that not only do repeat purchases, right? They're repeat customers, but they also perhaps evangelize about you through word of mouth to others that they know. Okay, so for example, you could go downward and have 2 more stages there if you want it. But these are all ratios, okay? So before you start, you should have some idea of what would be a typical response. And for that, you can usually get that information on the internet by researching your industry, okay? Looking at some of the results that other companies or other business operations have gotten. And this is available in multiple forms. There's multiple ways you could figure this out. For example, you can go to the whatever country you're in, whatever region you're in, you can usually go to a government website and look at their economic data and statistics that they make freely available to citizens and would-be business owners for this very purpose. So you have an idea of what's going on with different industries, what's the average amount of employees for people in that industry, like for companies in that industry in your region, and what's the amount of business that they do, what's the amount of, you can see a lot of things there. And also you can go and talk about it with forums and things like this. And you can go to, there's other industry related resources. So you can get this information. It's good to have a ballpark idea so you know what's good and what isn't. Okay. I was going to say something else, but I forgot what it was. It can't have been earth shattering. Let's put it that way. Anyway, so that's what I want to say about how to recognize a hit or a flop. Okay. Don't be afraid to question that. Okay. If you get some results, is this a good result? Is this a bad result? Okay, what do you need to do? A lot of times, depending on the type of person that's doing the side hustle or startup, they may not realize the importance of promotion. Usually the way it works is that you put more effort into promotion, your sales go up. The only question is, what's the ratio of, how much effort do you have to put into promotion for your sales to go up by a certain amount? Like what's the you can obviously figure out a mathematical formula for this for your particular business operation. Anyway, so hopefully that covers the first question that I was going to talk about today. The second question was a little bit more general. It was, what do I need to do if I want to get into this world of business? I want to start out maybe doing a side hustle, but I am interested in doing this long term. Perhaps I could turn it into my career, like what I do in my life. I become a business owner, and it just goes from there. So what would I need to do to break into that? Here's what I would say, okay? And I haven't rehearsed this. This is just off the top of my head. Okay, number one, let's see. In terms of what to do, here's what I would recommend. Jump in and try something. There's no better way to get, I don't know what you call it. I don't like using the term mindset, but seeing what it's like by trying something. Now, what I want to stress is that whatever you try, it should be very simple, very easy to do. And don't bet the farm on this. Don't spend any money on it. Do something that you can start up immediately. Like, for example, it doesn't take any real money to get on the internet and start promoting yourself in as much as you can provide services for other people. You could, if you have a skill, like let's say your profession is accounting, you could provide accounting services to other people. You could do their taxes or, whatever accountants do. You could provide accounting services that people might need. Now, how much does it cost to set up, say, a Facebook page or something, to join a bunch of online groups and forums and platforms where perhaps people who could use help with taxes or, accounting, they would sort of congregate, they would be on there. So you could do some posts and say, like, look, I provide this. I'm located here. If anybody needs that, please let me know. Give me a call. This is my number, or, this is my email address, or whatever, or just reply, or go to my site, or however you want to do it. It doesn't really cost anything to do this, okay? Now, this is your first sort of business experience. You're providing something. It's an offering, and you're promoting it. And if you get any bites, you see where it goes and you muddle through it. And it's a good problem to have when somebody then calls you or contacts you and says, yes, I'm located in the same city or whatever, and I would very much like to, can you provide me some advice on how to do my taxes? Either could you do them for me, or could you advise me on how to do them and maybe proofread them before I send it off? Whatever. And you say, yes, I know all about that. I can provide that service. Sure, let's talk about it. It's a good problem to have. Usually from that point on, assuming you are an accountant, you will not really have any issues in handling that. The challenge, of course, is selling it. That's the business element of it, right? Don't get too worried about oh no, do I have to register as a business? Do I have to get a business license? Do I have to incorporate myself? Do I all this administrative type stuff? Don't get too wrapped up in that in the very beginning. If you stumble upon a hit, and what I mean by a hit is that you're making so much money that you could quit your day job to do this, okay, then you can worry about that stuff. And usually that stuff is actually very simple and easy to do, depending on what country you're in, depending on what region you're in. In the vast majority of cases, they make that stuff easy because countries want to encourage citizens to be entrepreneurs and stimulate the economy by generating wealth, by starting businesses and things. That's what governments want. They want their citizens to start successful businesses. So they tend to make all the administrative stuff easy, okay? In the very beginning, if you're just starting off with a couple of clients and, you don't have to worry about that stuff in the beginning. If it turns into you're making a lot of money, then you can get into it. But don't put the cart before the horse. I know a lot of would-be startup founders and would-be side hustle people that obsess too much about this. They make it like an issue when it really isn't. It's a non-issue. The only real issue you're going to have is, can you find paying customers for whatever it is that you're selling? That's going to be the only thing. So the very first piece of advice I would have is just jump in. You have an idea, you have something you're interested in that you want to do, and you want to make money with it. Maybe you want to turn your hobby into a paying job of some kind, like a money-making venture. Just jump in and try it, okay? Now, then, okay, usually people either, they get any result from failing miserably to having some success. Then, I would say, and I'm answering the question, what should I do to get into this, is I would learn a few basic business concepts. The most important business concept to know is that, usually the amount of money you make and the amount of business you do is a function of how much promotion you do. Okay, so all things being equal, if you do more promotion, you will get more sales volume, more customers. You will make more money. The question, of course, is what's the ratio? How effective is your promotion in generating the results? Okay, and there's obviously successful ways of going about it, and there's unsuccessful ways of going about it. And the details of that vary for every single industry. Okay, I see there's some questions going in. You know what? I'm just going to take a couple of quick questions. Let's see. TJ says, I like the subject a lot. Thanks. You're absolutely welcome, TJ. Furious Cheddar says, good morning. I've been following this series recently as someone who tried a startup that flopped, but I haven't given up, just decided to wind it down until I can figure things out. Yes, Furious Cheddar, you are absolutely not alone. Most people fail many, many times before they succeed. Or when I say fail, I mean they have a certain amount of success, but it's just not enough to really sustain it and maintain it long term. So don't worry. What you're doing is you're learning the hard way, and we're going to try and learn smart. We're going to try to learn as smart as we can. And I'm going to get to that in a second. My biggest struggle was reaching customers. Nobody was in the office and they ignored emails. What are some ways to reach people that you think you can service with a product? Well, once again, that completely varies. There's many, many channels, okay? And the way to go about answering that question is, you see, if you were on the inside of an industry, that would be a much easier problem to solve because you would know the culture, you know what people do. What do they pay attention to? you know that nobody really responds to unsolicited emails. You know that nobody responds to unsolicited sales calls. But however, maybe they do go to industry events or conventions. And if there's someone with a booth there that has a big presence there, they will pay attention to that. Or they all get their information about what's going on in their industry through some specific channel. Maybe it's an industry publication, maybe it's an association, something like that. So anyone that's kind of down or mentioned in that publication or that has a presence with the industry association, maybe that's what they pay attention to. There are many, many options. Maybe they have an online presence, maybe they don't, right? Maybe the way to do it is to show up in person, okay? It's going to vary by industry, and even within an industry, by region or by country, it does vary considerably too. So you have to get to know the culture of these people, okay? You have to get that information. Now, you can stumble around blind by being on the outside of that business, just sort of throwing stuff against the wall and seeing if it works. Or you could try and get on the inside of it. If possible, usually a sort of good generic blanket thing that helps yield that information is starting to have informational interviews with people in the business who would be your potential customers. Okay, so if you're doing a business to business type thing and you're selling to businesses, if you could sit down with a few owners of some of these businesses or general managers, or you could ask them, to give you a tour. Would it be possible to get a tour? Now, how to get informational interviews and how to conduct them, that's sort of a different topic. I've covered that on my channel many times. I also talk about that in depth in this course of how to get hired, because one channel of getting a job is also through informational interviews. But informational interviews is to get information. It could be information on about how to sell to people, what they pay attention to and how they think and what they're looking at and what their concerns are and what they're, what they believe the trends are and, things like this. Okay. So you can use it if that's the problem you're struggling with. You don't understand what would be a good channel to reach people because you don't know what they're paying attention to. That's something that, without knowing any details about the industry, that's what I would go to first. Okay. So that requires LinkedIn networking and, that's in my experience, that's the easiest way of doing it. There may be other ways of generating informational interviews that work for you. But for me and for a lot of people, I found LinkedIn networking the easiest way to set those up and to discover who are around you that are in your industry that would be a potential customer for a start. We've done this before. Let me just do this very quickly. Let me just bring back my web browser here. So, okay, like for example, what I just said, you don't know who could be in your industry. Where's maps here? I don't have maps. There we go. So you would do something like this. So I'm in the city of Winnipeg, but we could pick any city you want. And then, the example I used before was accounting, right? If I type in accounting, I'm sure there's a billion accountants here. The whole thing would light up. But something more specific, I don't know if somebody has a suggestion about a specific industry. Airline companies. I see Rapka V's talking about airline companies. So if I say airline, okay, now this is doing a search in my region. Now, what's coming up are businesses that have some connection to the airline industry. So it's lighting them up on the map. Now you can see like the airline business in this city is concentrated in this quarter. I can say search this area and that would redo the search for whatever part of the city I'm looking at. But like, okay, so what's this here? Cheap flight tickets. It looks like it's something operating out of somebody's house. Flight air tickets. Flight center free consultation. Airline charge. Okay, so we're getting certain things. Maybe here's the airport. You're getting actual airlines here. Windjet Airlines. But let's say, you also want to look for something like aerospace. Okay, aerospace. That would be more of like the airline industry in an industrial capacity. So you're finding like Standard Aero, Magellan Aerospace. So if we click on this, if we click on any of these, okay, you're getting who they are, you're getting their address, you're getting their phone number. If they have a website, presumably, yes, here's their website, and this sort of thing. So now you know what companies that, if you're selling to businesses, you know what companies there could be out there. So you can make a list of potential customers. These are people with which you could potentially do informational interviews, right? Then the next step would be to go on LinkedIn, okay? And knowing what these companies are, do a search for, say, what was it? Magellan Aerospace, like the first one in our list. And then you can see inside that company to the individuals, say, here's the owner, here's the general manager, here's the branch office manager, whatever it is, like a senior person, a higher level person that's in this region, in this office, and contact them and just say something like, hello, my name is, whatever, and I'm interested in, hearing your thoughts and hearing your opinions and thoughts on what's going on in the aerospace industry. If you are open to maybe giving me 30 minutes of your time, I'd really appreciate it. And I'd love to hear your expert opinion on that. And then you blast these out. Now, a lot of people will say no, but in my experience, about 10 to 20%, somewhere in there, will say yes, sure, no problem. Let's set up a meeting. So if you send that out to 100 people, you've got, with a 10 to 20% return, you've got 10 to 20 informational interviews set up. So now you're getting into the heads of these people. You're asking what they pay attention to. You could ask them, for example, how do you keep your finger on the pulse of this industry? How do you learn the latest things that are going on? How does that reach you? When they say, oh, well, I pay attention to this channel, or we hear about it through this, there's your answer. So if you want to promote yourself in that business where these people could be your potential customer, that's giving you some ideas of perhaps the way to do that. Okay, so that's the end of that big, long story here. Before I get completely bogged down in questions, I just want to say, coming back to the initial question, which is what I should do if I want to break into, being an entrepreneur and having my own business venture that's successful and making money for me, what should I do? The first thing I said was just jump in. Jump in with something very simple and cheap. Selling services of something you know how to do is a great start. And just see if you can get customers, okay? Take your first steps into that world. Try and say, I can offer this if anyone's interested, and see if you can get paying customers. The next step would be to learn about business, okay? The next step was understand the principle that it's all about promotion. Generally, when you do more promotion, you get more results. Okay, so you have to do a lot of promotion. So learning how to do the promotion is very simple. The third principle I would say is focus on quality. It doesn't matter what you do, okay? As long as whatever it is that you're doing, you're trying to do a really good job, okay? Because ultimately, that's the strategy that works, okay? A lot of people get deluded, they get misinformed, and they think that, it's all about price. So I can offer this cheap, crappy thing, but as long as it's cheap, then I will sell it. Wrong. You may get short-term gain, but it's a long-term fail. And the only players that can potentially succeed with that strategy are the 800-pound gorillas, the huge players in the market, the Walmarts, the Amazons. They're the only ones that can win at that game because they have economies of scale. They can get the volume discounts for their materials and the things they need, whereas you can't. So that's why they will always have an advantage over someone small when it comes to playing that game, okay? But the winning strategy is that if you do something really well and you do the things that your customers care about well, you can win. I don't care if you're a one-person company, you can still beat out the multinational corporations when it comes to things like services. If you're local and you service the customer and give them what they care about more than your competitors, you will win big time if you can do that. So that'd be the third thing, to realize that concept. And then the fourth thing would be to just educate yourself about business. Okay? You can do this multiple ways. Okay? Yes, I've created a course for that very purpose. That is one option for people. I'm not here necessarily trying to plug it or to sell it, but I did create that partly for people in this situation. You want to learn business. You want to learn like actual business, not a bunch of pseudoscience that people pass off as business advice. Okay. For cheap, and you don't want to go back to school and put your whole life on hold for 2 years to do it and go back to university and incur like student loans and debts and all. $100, you get the books that they use in Harvard and other places around the world, other universities that are obviously accredited. And you can study it yourself. You get the actual material, okay? It's not just a whole bunch of like my opinions or something. You get the actual material. I'm your guide. I guide you through it with videos, but you get the books and you read them to the depth and to your own interest, okay? That you want. Okay, so if that's of any interest to you, check out the link in the description. That's what I'd recommend. But those are probably the most important things. Jump in, okay? Just try something that's very cheap. Don't risk anything. Okay, risk your time being wasted, but don't risk anything else. Okay, don't spend any money. Number 2, realize that it's all about promotion. Whatever you do, it's great that you do this, but you now have to get that out to the people in the world that are interested in it. Okay. Number 3, realize that quality is everything. Whatever it is that you're doing, do it well. Okay. Do a good job. How do you know what's good and what's not? It's what the customer would care about. Do that stuff really well. Try and do it better than anyone. If you see big companies providing services and they're doing a crappy job in the sense that they're not really treating customers very well, or, just there's too much administration, you call the company and you get like a nasty, officious person on the phone, how many times have we done that? You get a receptionist or somebody that just, bites your head off and is, really offensive and not very much fun to talk to. That's not providing a good service. Maybe you get some rude guy comes out and provides, service, and they're, you really don't like them. They're kind of intimidating. They seem really disgruntled. Whatever it is, right? That you see that there's opportunities for you to come in and improve and do something better that you can do. You just have a bit of a smile on your face and you're accommodating and you're actually listening to customers when they're sharing their concerns with you and, asking if you can help them with their problem or whatever. You can, like, it's all about quality. It's all about doing what customers care about as well as you possibly can. That's the winning strategy. It doesn't matter how big or how small you are or what industry you're in. We know this. Management scientists that study this stuff, they discovered this years ago. It's amazing how so many companies and people don't seem to realize that, and they stray from that. But that's the winning strategy. And then fourthly, educate yourself about business. Learn business. Learn how accounting works. Learn how marketing works. Learn how operations work to make things more efficient. These are skills that will help you to win big time and make you really, really profitable and make you successful. So that's what I would say. I have about 5 minutes, so I will take a few questions. I see we got a few. Thank you for being here, by the way. There's 20 of you guys here. Oh, that was a mouthful. Okay, JSK says, I need your suggestions to prepare. Now, this was JSK. Okay. If you could give me more information, JSK, I could respond to that better. Rapka says, hello, do you know anything about airline companies and how they hire and what they're looking? I used to, for like a year and a half or something, I ran a small airline. I was a general manager of an airline that's now gone by the wayside. Not under my tenure, but since then. But that was like 15 years ago. So, I mean, it depends. It depends. If you're an airline, you could be hiring flight attendants, or you could be hiring pilots, or you could be hiring maintenance workers like ground crew, or you could be hiring administrators or accountants or HR people. I mean, it depends. The way they look for those people and what they care about obviously varies considerably, right? So, and besides, anything I know firsthand about the airline industry is at least 15 years old, so I probably wouldn't be able to give you anything useful. Test Account says, good name, God. Can I get your thoughts on the concept in promotion where you charge more for your service but you only charge them for getting a desired result. This is a concept in the $100 million book. I don't know what the $100 million book is. Where you charge more for your service, but you only charge them for getting a desired result. Yeah, well, that's called different things based on what industry that's in. If you're in certain industries, that's called consignment. If you're in distribution, that's called consignment. That it is possible to do that. However, in some industries, it's very, very hard to do that, because what happens is you then have a dispute at the end over, did you in fact deliver the desired result, or was it something that was slightly less than the desired result? It requires you to get absolutely clear on what the desired result is, okay? And as you can probably guess, the typical client will try, especially if they're a first-time client, they will try any trick they can to somehow suggest that what you delivered was not exactly what they said they wanted, so therefore they don't have to pay. That's the problem you're going to be up against, okay? Now, I'm not a super big fan of this strategy. I prefer, you can do this if you're working with clients that you trust, okay? If you have long-term relationships, they've done multiple transactions with you over the years, you both trust each other, you and them are both known quantities, then it can work, okay? However, if you are in a startup, if you're trying to start up a business, this is usually not the way to go, okay? I would do either or. I would either charge, a more standard way, like a fee. You can either charge by time or agree on a payment schedule. By milestones if you're doing a project or something. Or if you're trying to prove yourself to a client, because if you win their favor, then they could be throwing a lot of business at you. I would do it for free. I would purely do it for free, because you're doing it as a sort of promotional tool, as a marketing tactic. Now, in order to make, if it is a marketing tactic, let's be honest, admit it's a marketing tactic, and then make it a really effective marketing tactic. It's very hard to say no to somebody who approaches you and says, look, are you looking for this? I can do it for free, okay? The only thing I ask is that if you ever have a need for this in the future, beyond this particular instance or transaction, consider working with us. We charge a good rate. But just to sort of prove ourselves to you, we will do this one as a freebie, just so you can see what you're getting and see how good we truly are, okay? Because we're confident that, once you've worked with us, you will not mind paying us in the future. That's the strategy I would prefer, generally speaking, okay? If it's a marketing tactic, make it a pure marketing tactic that's very effective. If it's, if it's a simple sale, make it a simple sale. Don't convolute it with all kinds of really hard sort of hoops you got to jump through. Okay? That's my opinion. That's a general answer. There are times when you could do this, but those are usually the exception more than the rule, in my opinion and in my experience. That's what I would say. Just my opinion. Furious Cheddar. I think we would have been specialty chemicals or biotech to most people, I suppose, but we ran much leaner than most. I built a lab for less than $1,000. Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the advantages of startups and things. You can operate quicker, you're more agile, you can do things that are more streamlined, and sometimes, depending on the situation, that can be a considerable advantage. I think previously we came off too sales pitchy. I don't know if that makes sense. Yes, it does. It does make sense. And it's interesting because what Test Account just was sort of asking, and what I was talking about a moment ago, of saying like, look, just give us a chance. I know that's a sales tactic that we've used in industrial sales before, or I've used, my company's used, where, you call someone up, you call up an industrial customer, and you say, look, I know you haven't done business with us before. I know kind of we're the little guy, maybe, and I know you might have some concerns over that, but listen, just give us a chance. Let us prove ourselves to you with this one transaction. And that's all we ask. And then you give them a really good deal. You don't really make any money on that transaction, but it's sort of to get your foot in the door, right? It could either be for free or it could be for, a much lower price. You're doing it at a cost or something like that. But just to get your foot in the door, when you're saying like, look, just give us a chance. Let us prove to you that, we're every bit as good as what you're used to. We can meet your needs and we can provide what you're looking for, whether that's quick turnaround or a lower price or, whatever it is, whatever you're looking for, just let us prove it to you. Okay. I'm talking as a sales tactic, as a sort of marketing tactic to try and get these people to, take the next step with you. Sometimes that works. Now, what you sometimes get is people that take you up on that. They give you a chance. They give you one transaction, one job, one purchase, but then they don't come back. So, it cuts both ways, but it is a possible tactic to do depending on the situation. You're absolutely welcome, Rapka V. Furious Cheddar says, is it an irrational thought to fear be taken advantage of or used for free samples? No, it's not. Well, look. If you have a problem doing it, then you don't have to do it. But if you're doing it, the whole point is that you're doing it for free. You have to be okay with doing something for free to offer a free sample. Okay. It may not be appropriate in every situation. There's no like sort of, step-by-step guide that works in every industry, in every situation, for every size company, in boom periods, in recessions. Like there's no one-size-fits-all tactic, okay, that works across the board. All you can do across the board are general principles. When it comes to these sort of tactics of how you sell, they're going to vary. And like I said, if your problem is you don't understand the perspective of your customers, you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know what they care about, things like informational interviews are the way into that, the way to get that information. If you're going to businesses, you would do an informational interview with the owner, operator, manager, people that are sort of in charge of the decision makers. If you're going to consumers, you would do different tactics that yield the same results. You would do public opinion polls, you would do surveys, stuff like that. You'd get out on social media, put out posts, put out polls, get data back, see what people respond to, see what people don't respond to. Things like this. So if it's a lack of information that you're struggling with, you need to get that information. That's why people who start side hustles that are based off industries that they've been on the inside of, they have an advantage. If you're trying to break into something from the outside, it can be very, very tough. It can be, you're setting the bar really high. It's a big challenge. So in order to make it work, you have to get that information about how these people think and, how they operate. And then when you get that, you will have a better idea of precisely how to sell to them. Okay, that's kind of how this stuff works. That's all the time I have for today on Side Hustle Ideas. Thank you for joining me. You guys are awesome. There's 21 of you guys here. I will be doing this live stream every week, once a week on Mondays. That's kind of how it seems like right now. Hopefully I can continue the schedule all through the summer. I've had to move some stuff around because I've got, my main line is consulting and I have meetings and things. So I had to move all this stuff to Monday, but I'll be back next week and I will see you guys then. Thank you so much and take care.